The Whispers of Doom, the story of Jeremiah. Have you ever felt like you were born in the wrong time, the wrong place? Like a square peg jammed into a round hole? Imagine being tasked with delivering the worst news imaginable to the people you love, knowing they'll hate you for it. That, my friend, was Jeremiah's life. He was a prophet, but not the kind celebrated with parades. He was the prophet of doom, the bearer of bad news, the voice crying in the wilderness, and nobody wanted to hear what he had to say. Jeremiah lived in a turbulent time, the 7th and 6th centuries BC. The kingdom of Judah, once glorious under kings like David and Solomon, was rotting from the inside out. Idolatry was rampant. Injustice prevailed. People were more interested in lining their pockets than honoring God. It was a party, but the music was about to stop. But Jeremiah, a sensitive young man from a priestly family, was chosen by God for a grim task. He was to warn Judah of the impending doom, the Babylonian invasion. Imagine that, a young man, barely out of his teens, told to confront a nation drunk on its own perceived power. He tried reasoning, he pleaded. He even resorted to symbolic acts, like wearing a yoke around his neck to illustrate Judah's coming enslavement. But the more he warned, the more they mocked him. They called him a traitor, a fearmonger, a lunatic. They wanted the good times to keep rolling. They didn't want a party pooper like Jeremiah raining on their parade. Think of Winston Churchill, warning about the Nazi threat, while many in Britain hoped for appeasement. Or even consider a doctor delivering a difficult diagnosis. The messenger is rarely welcomed when the news is bad. Jeremiah's message was the worst imaginable. So what did Jeremiah do? He persisted. He couldn't not speak. God's word burned within him like a fire. He was like Cassandra, cursed to see the future but unable to prevent it. His prophecies, recorded in the book of Jeremiah, are a chilling blend of warning and lament. He wept for his people, for their blindness, for the destruction he knew was coming. His heart broke, along with his nation, but his persistence came at a price. He was persecuted, imprisoned, even thrown into a muddy cistern to die. His own family turned against him. He was utterly alone, except for God. It would have been so much easier to stay silent to go along with the crowd, but Jeremiah couldn't. His loyalty to God, his agonizing love for his people, compelled him to speak truth to power, even when it meant suffering. Now, imagine the internal conflict he must have wrestled with, the loneliness, the despair, the temptation to just give up. Yet, he persevered. Why? Because he understood something fundamental about faith. It's not about blind obedience. It's about wrestling with God, arguing with God, even questioning God. And through that struggle, finding a deeper, more profound connection. Like Job, who questioned God's justice amidst his suffering, Jeremiah wrestled with his divine mandate. He argued with God, complained to God, poured out his heart to God. And in those raw, honest conversations, he discovered a strength that went beyond human understanding. But here's a thought. What if Jeremiah wasn't just prophesying about the destruction of Jerusalem? What if he was also speaking to us today? What if his warnings about idolatry, injustice, and complacency are just as relevant in our modern world? Think about it. We have our own idols. Money, power, fame. We face our own injustices, inequality, prejudice, oppression. And we often fall prey to complacency, ignoring the warning signs around us. Perhaps Jeremiah's message isn't just about ancient history. Perhaps it's a timeless reminder of the consequences of turning away from God and the hope that remains, even in the darkest of times. So how does Jeremiah's story end? Jerusalem falls, just as he predicted. The Babylonians conquer Judah, destroy the temple, and exile the people. It's a catastrophic event, a national trauma. But even amidst the ruins, Jeremiah's voice continues to speak. He offers words of hope, words of restoration, words of a future beyond the devastation. He reminds the exiles that God hasn't abandoned them, that even in their suffering there is a purpose, that even in exile they can find a way to live faithfully. He talks about a new covenant, a deeper relationship with God, not based on external rituals, but on an inner transformation of the heart. Consider Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for decades, yet emerging as a symbol of hope and reconciliation. Or Viktor Frankl, finding meaning in the horrors of the Holocaust. Even in the face of unimaginable loss, the human spirit can endure, and Jeremiah embodied that enduring spirit. But what if we view Jeremiah's story through a different lens? Not just as a tale of destruction and exile, but as a story of resilience and hope. What if we see Jeremiah not just as a prophet of doom, but as a prophet of transformation? A man who, despite facing unimaginable opposition, never lost faith in God's ultimate plan for his people. He reminds us that even when everything seems lost, there is always hope. That even in the midst of our own struggles, we can find strength in our connection to God. That even when we feel like we're crying in the wilderness, our voice can still make a difference. So next time you feel like you're facing an impossible challenge, next time you feel like your voice isn't being heard, remember Jeremiah. Remember the prophet who dared to speak truth to power, even when it cost him everything. Remember the man who wept for his people, yet never lost hope in their future. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find the courage to speak your own truth, to face your own challenges, and to become a beacon of hope in a world that desperately needs it. Because the whispers of doom can sometimes be the seeds of hope. And that, my friend, is the enduring legacy of Jeremiah.